pop diva.
The emotion, the passion, and the range, you can't beat it.
Queen of the power ballad.
You run the gamut of every emotion. That's what she can do with her voice.
And global icon.
Celine is one of the best singers that's ever existed in pop music.
With over 220 million record sales worldwide, Celine Dion always had her sights set beyond her humble beginnings.
She was actually at one point sleeping in a little dresser drawer. She didn't have a crib.
My dream is to be international star.
To take the pop world by storm.
There's only so many singers like that in a lifetime.
In the next hour, we will tell the story of the 3 songs that reveal her remarkable climb to the top and meet those behind her biggest hits. From her first global smash,
She wouldn't talk for days when she was going to sing. She respected her instruments so much.
to a haunting classic.
So theatrical and so over the top and so awesome. She really knows how to give you drama.
And her unique take on a dance floor favorite.
I think the dance approach to it is effective without sounding like cheap disco or something. I think really captured the song beautifully.
This is Celine Dion and the story of her songs. (1968). Around the world, seismic social change was in the air. There was war in Vietnam, civil rights protests across the US.
I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you.
And Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. But all the kids wanted was peace. The Summer of Love never quite reached the quiet suburbs of Montreal in Canada. But it was here, to a large and loving French Quebecois family, that a star was born.
Celine Dion is the youngest of 14 children. They didn't have a lot in terms of comforts, especially financial comforts.
Celine grew up really poor. I think she was actually at one point sleeping in a little dresser drawer. She didn't have a crib.
But what they lacked in material wealth, they more than made up for in family closeness. The entire family is musical. In fact, the family would perform at piano bars all the time and entertain the community.
They didn't have a lot of money, but what they did have was total encouragement. And from the age of 5, she got the bug to perform.
Celine's singing skills made up for her struggles at school.
She was kind of a goofy-looking kid. She was really skinny. Her teeth were jiggity-jaggedy. The mean kids at school called her a vampire.
She felt like an outsider, especially among her peers at school. She experienced bullying, and as a result, she didn't always have a lot of confidence.
Shy Celine took refuge in music. When she was 12, she wrote her first song with help from her mother and brother. And her mother sent a recording to music producer René Angelil, who was on the verge of quitting the music industry.
He heard the demo and he was like, wow, I am blown away. Who is this young talent?
And Celine went in to sing for him in his office. She sang for him and he cried. He was about to leave the business. He was probably just seeing Celine out of, politeness, and he found himself incredibly moved, and he ended up mortgaging his house so that he could subsidize the making of her very first album.
The French-language album Le Voix du Bon Dieu was a hit in Quebec, staying 13 weeks in the charts and peaking at number 11. René also ensured Celine got to show off her voice on television, both in Canada and France.
Celine's been singing professionally for just under 2 years, but she's already made it big in Quebec and France. In the 2 days after Celine sang on the biggest variety show on French television, she sold 25,000 records.
Welcome, Celine. Bienvenue.
14 kids in your family, right?
I have 4 children. I thought I was going to go nuts. Maybe I will yet. But 14.
14.
Everybody sings in the family.
My dream is to be international star. And to be able to sing all my life.
She didn't always have a lot of confidence. And it was René Angelil whose belief in her changed the way she felt about herself.
He told her it'd be a good thing for her to kind of like bow out of show business for a year and a half just to kind of get her look together. So she ended up like getting her teeth straightened and, you know, gaining a little poise, learning English.
What language does he speak at home? At home, Mr. Duval speaks French.
In 1988, Celine emerged from her chrysalis of cultivation at the age of 20. Her new confidence was revealed as she stepped onto the world stage. Representing Switzerland, Celine Dion won the Eurovision Song Contest by a single point. It was a hugely emotional evening, combining public triumph and privately a love story.
She was developing feelings for René.
They came up together into this incredible, you know, story of music, and it kind of was a living fairy tale.
After she won the Eurovision Song Contest, she and René officially began their romantic relationship.
At 46, René was 26 years Celine's senior, but her heart was set.
Celine stood her ground and just said, I'm an adult and I know what I want and I deserve to be loved and I love this man.
Later that year, Celine was ready to go into the Lion Share studio in Los Angeles for her first English-language album, Unison. They hired engineering giant Umberto Gatica, who'd worked with Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, and Barbra Streisand.
It was this studio, right here. At the time. She was very nervous, very, very shy, and she had this attitude, this conviction behind her voice, you know, right away.
Unison was released in 1990 and sold 3 million copies.
The album really set Celine on a path to break into the English language market.
She's a huge star up in Canada, especially in Montreal. And she's making her first appearance here on American television tonight. Her name is Celine Dion, and you'll hear a lot more from her. And your English is very good. I was expecting the accent, you know. But it's good.
Oh, but, you know, I have to tell you that 3 years ago, I couldn't speak a word in English.
Really?
So I went to school. I went to Berlitz for 2 months. But really, and
like a commercial,
I learned because I wanted to, yeah.
And I bet you couldn't sing before you listened to those albums either, those records.
Unison had put Celine on the map in the US, but that illustrious Billboard #1 evaded her. Until 1993, when finally she cracked it, with a cover of Jennifer Rush's 1984 ballad, The Power of Love.
Jennifer Rush did a great version of it, and Celine, you know, was fearless and said, you know, I'm going to do my own version.
Celine was now getting the international recognition and respect she'd always craved.
Back in the 60s, we had Dionne Warwick, Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin, Barbra Streisand.
Yes.
Now in the 90s, we've got, you've got Mariah out there, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston,
Yeah.
Vanessa Williams, you.
Yeah.
You are part of the new generation of great, powerful voices. How does it feel to be in that company?
Those people, for me, they're my idols. There's people that I'm looking up to, and I listen to them. But it's kind of strange to say that I feel part of them, because I wish, because my dream since I'm 5 years old, I always wanted to be on the same stage of those people.
Well, as we used to say in radio, you got the pipes. You've got the pipes.
Despite Celine's success, the competition was fierce.
It's funny to look back on the early 90s and realize, like, oh yeah, there was a thing, a trend that was happening then. When Celine was rising and Mariah was doing her thing and Cher and Whitney, all these big singers were doing their thing.
Celine needed a mega hit to stand out from the crowd.
Celine was making the transition from her French-Canadian career into the Anglophone world, and her record company wanted her to have a I Will Always Love You kind of big schmaltzy hit.
History's proven that merging the music and film and how that reaches so many people, it takes them to a whole new level.
A new rom-com in need of a title track was in production.
Up Close and Personal is about two journalists and their love story over the years. They end up falling in love, and he ends up being the person who believes in her the most.
The studio in charge of the title track and boss Polly Anthony wanted a diva anthem to help make the film a success. So she turned to the queen of power ballads, Diane Warren, and charged her to write a song for Celine.
Diane Warren is one of the most prolific songwriters of our time.
The emotions she put in the song, I don't think any other songwriter could actually be that honest.
Lady Gaga's done her work, Elton John, Beyonce, Cher.
I'm always writing new songs I'm really excited about. My process is I show up. And I get to work. I don't even know what I do. I just do it.
Diane dug deep to find the inspiration for her new ballad.
I was obviously writing it for the movie Up Close and Personal, but when I wrote it, I was thinking about my dad. My dad had died, and he always believed in me, you know. So I wanted to kind of be able to thank him in that song. The song fit the narrative because it was basically her thanking Robert Redford's character for believing in her and lifting her up. You know, you gave me wings and made me fly. You touched my hand, I could touch the sky. This is a guy who believed in her. You know, I'm everything I am because you loved me. One thing I really remember about writing that song was thinking that song is better than me. Like I leapfrogged into another, level when I wrote that.
When Diane's song was played for Renee and Celine, they fell in love with it.
When Celine and Renee first listened to the song together, they became quite emotional.
Those lyrics really spoke to Celine and Renee because they had experienced that. That was what their love was.
You can imagine that she thought, this is great. This works on all levels because it fits with the film. It's great for my voice. It's going to be a great delivery system for my power throat. And then, of course, it's also a narrative that reflects what she and Renee have.
You gave me wings and made me fly. You touched my hand, I could touch the sky. I lost my faith, you gave it back to me. You said no star was out of reach.
She was like, this is it. I have to record this. I love it so much. And there was something about this song in particular where she knew it would fit into the history of her career and her life.
But there was a problem. The song had to be greenlit by president of Epic Records, Polly Anthony.
Polly was demanding. Polly was hardcore. She wanted your best.
While Diane Warren was very proud of her song, Polly Anthony was like, I don't think this is it.
It's 1993, and Celine Dion has gone from being an unknown French-language chanteuse to hitting the Billboard Top 10 with The Power of Love. This is the story behind 3 of Celine's career-defining songs, and the first, Because You Loved Me, was now on the verge of catapulting her into the stratosphere.
Polly Anthony was the head of Epic Records at the time, and what they were looking for Up Close and Personal and the title track was to emulate what Whitney Houston and I Will Always Love You did for The Bodyguard. While Diane Warren was very proud of her song, Polly Anthony was like, I don't think this is it.
Polly Anthony actually rejected the song to begin with. She thought it wasn't good enough for what they wanted to achieve with this film.
And they were still entertaining other options from other songwriters.
I think he had 3 other people writing songs for it. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what the other songs are, but none of them are going to be this good.
Celine intervened.
Celine loved the song so much and connected so absolutely with the lyrics and the sentiment that she insisted it made it onto the movie soundtrack.
Celine's conviction that this was the song clinched the deal.
That song still is one of the best songs I ever wrote.
For all those
When the track was finally greenlit, it was time to hit the studio, where Celine would once again team up with multi-Grammy award-winning producer Umberto Gatica.
Working with Celine Dion is an experience. Reason for that is that she comes to the studio always with a great, positive humor, attitude. She dresses beautiful. She smells incredible, always ready for to perform.
I was in the studio for that session, and she's a great person. You know, being in the studio, she's funny, she doesn't take herself seriously, but she takes her work seriously, and she takes her instruments seriously. Back in the day, she wouldn't talk for days when she was going to sing. She respected her instruments so much.
When we record Because You Love Me, she dissects the song in sections. So first with the verses, and then get all the verses, get the emotion, the feel of the verse. After the first chorus, this woman, you say, we need some kind of a really intimate, like real get close to the mic. She was able to give it to you in such a professional and such a perfect way.
Her performance was fantastic. I can still remember being like literally blown away, like hearing that, you know, and that with that high note. It was such a perfect performance, you know, just how it all built to that moment.
The emotional part where the record is done and she listened and she cried about it. She's touched by it.
For all those times you stood by me,
For all the truth that you made me see,
for all the joy you brought to my life.
just the way she sang joy. Joy. She's holding on that note, like, and you can really feel that she means that. And then she starts going there, and you're just like, oh, here she goes. She's going. She's unstoppable.
She kind of like pulls you up the mountain and gets up to that high note, and it's goosebumps. And you're like, wow, where did that come from?
Because you loved me.
Because You Loved Me was released in 1996 to massive critical acclaim and reached #1 across the globe, including the US Billboard chart.
The record became a huge success, a very significant hit in her career.
It wasn't just that Celine's dream came true, but I think Renee's did too. His dream was to back talent and to be out there and support this amazing gift that she had. And they both realized their dreams because of their love.
The track also went on to win a Grammy and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Song.
Because You Loved Me elevated Celine to the pantheon of, you know, of Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, and where she always belonged. Sometimes it just takes one song to do it.
The soundtrack elevated Celine to international fame, and all she had to do now was stay on top.
The second song that would ignite Celine Dion's career would take a gamble, a leap of faith into a completely different musical arena that would transform her image.
Would Celine, under any other circumstances, would she have recorded a 7.5-minute song?
This is my favorite Celine Dion song of all time. I love this song so much. It makes me feel everything.
It's 1996, and Celine Dion has cemented her place as an international singing star with power ballad Because You Loved Me. It would take a spectacular track to follow this and keep the momentum behind Celine's career going. Her second song to set the world alight was an inspired choice from an unlikely source. Rock. Meatloaf's regular composer and king of the gothic rock ballad, Jim Steinman, was working on his next epic.
He wanted to write the most dramatically romantic song in history, which in and of itself is like the most dramatic declaration. The song was inspired by Wuthering Heights.
The Emily Bronte classic is an intense and ghostly tale featuring doomed lovers Heathcliff and Cathy.
Let me try you once, Granny. I'll be your slave. I can bring life back to you, new and fresh.
He wanted to explore the dark part of romance.
The way Jim tells it is like Heathcliff digs up the corpse of Cathy and has this idea that he's infusing this song with this kind of melodrama.
What makes Me Now so great are all those things. It's the lyrics, the melody, the chord changes, and the arrangement. And you put that all together, and it becomes like a novel within the span of a few minutes.
The track caught the attention of Steinman's closest collaborator.
Meatloaf heard the song and he wanted it. I mean, who wouldn't want the song? It's a great song.
There was actually a little tug of war with Meatloaf over who was going to perform It's All Coming Back to Me Now.
For an artist like Celine, who's a very elegant, beautiful, lovely woman, I actually questioned to myself the wisdom of choosing this song for somebody like Celine at that point in her career.
But Renee was convinced, and Jim Steinman agreed. This was Celine's song.
I wasn't there when Renee heard the song and Renee brought it to Celine, but I do know that Jim was very proud, very, very proud that Celine Dion, because it's at the peak of her career, was about to sing one of his songs.
And what a song. It's All Coming Back to Me Now was 7.5 minutes in length. And when they got into the studio, Jim worked Celine hard.
To produce a record like this, you know, that's what it takes. I mean, it's a lot of work to make, you know. It's almost like you have to conduct a philharmonic orchestra because there are so many, you know, dynamics. It's not just a simple pop record, you know.
He made Celine sing many takes, and she gave it to him without any problem. We're talking about at least about 30 takes, 30, 40 takes.
Da 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 da.
So theatrical and so over the top and so awesome. She really knows how to give you drama.
The first line in the song is, "There are nights when the wind was so cold."
There were nights when the wind was so cold.
I mean, it is so melodramatic.
My body froze in bed if I just listened to it right outside the window.
It's just classic Jim Steinman, the descriptions.
There were days when the sun was so cruel.
My favorite parts are when she's like, if I touch you like that. Like when she's really soft.
When I touch you like this.
Then she goes into this, na 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 na. If I did you like this. Like, it's just this, she's just playing with you.
I touch you like this, and if you kiss me like that. It was so long ago, but it's all coming back to me.
It sounds like it's a song where the protagonist is longing for somebody and, you know, thinking back on the wonderful times they've had, and you actually take a closer listen and you realize, oh.
But you were history with the slamming of the door, and I made myself so strong again somehow, and I
the song itself. It sounds so simple, but it's really not. It does these weaves through the chord changes that one time it'll do one chord change, and then the next time that section comes around, it'll be slightly different. It speaks to Jim's ability to get people to go out of their comfort zone. Would Celine, under any other circumstances, would she have recorded a 7.5-minute song?
Because it is as good as it is, it does work. Somehow it finds its way into, you know, pop consciousness.
I love this song so much. It makes me feel everything.
Now the song needed a video to match the high drama of the vocals. Acclaimed director Nigel Dick was the man awarded this daunting task.
When I was first given the track, I wrote 6 completely different ideas. Those were rejected, and obviously I was just failing to hit the target. Eventually it was Jim Steinman's going to get on the phone. He's got a great idea. And of course, stupidly, you'd equate great with original or different. So when he says, well, we've got a young guy on a motorcycle, you know, my immediate reaction, well, of course we do. It's a Jim Steinman song. I can't remember what the pitch was like, because what I'm doing is I'm furiously scribbling down the idea on the phone. You're going, okay, kid falls off motorcycle, crashes into a tree, which for Celine, an artist who has a particularly sort of feminine market, to have this rather aggressive moment with a young man on a motorbike, you know, and exploding stuff going down, was, I thought, an interesting way to go.
The motorcycle man, yes.
I don't really know what happened to him. But if it took him dying for us to get this song and her in that crazy castle with the unnecessary windows, then that's fine by me.
Nigel Dick flew out to Prague to shoot the operatic video set in a gigantic Gothic castle.
Well, certainly the set is the biggest set I've ever had built. A massive 60 or 70 foot diameter bedroom with a 100-foot corridor off it was built, and we had a working fireplace, all the candles, the lighting and stuff is all shot inside. It was extraordinary. The look of the video is, it's a bodice ripper, so there's lots of drapes and the fabulous bed.
Let me tell you, I mean, there isn't a girl alive, a woman alive, that wouldn't love to be in that video and have the sheets and the hot man and the lights and all that stuff, you know? She kind of lives, she's living out the dream.
There was a scene, we had to do like 4 or 5 takes, and she's barefoot and she's running up and down this path. And finally we get it, okay, that's a wrap. And the next day we were on set in the studio, which is in the city, and Celine comes in and she's hobbling. And I'm like, are you okay? And she says, yes, my feet are all cut. And I said, why? What happened? And of course I've been making her run on pebbles for like half an hour, and she'd just not bothered to tell anybody that she was in a load of pain. That said to me a great deal about who she is.
Celine threw everything into her performance, including the love scenes.
She's really kissing him. It's pretty erotic for somebody who, at that point, hadn't really allowed herself to be sexualized.
It's All Coming Back to Me Now was an instant international smash and reached number 2 on the US Billboard charts.
The song was huge. It was played everywhere.
It's All Coming Back to Me Now is a song that really cements Celine as a top-tier recording artist, because she's recorded this song that sounds like nothing else on the radio at the time and made it into a big hit.
It's All Coming Back to Me Now, together with her hit Because You Loved Me, featured on Celine's 1996 album Falling Into You.
Falling Into You won the Grammy for Album of the Year. It's basically the highest honor that the Recording Academy can bestow.
It went on to sell an incredible 32 million copies.
Pop music history has plenty of rags to riches stories, but generally the artists who break through and become really globally successful are American or British. So for Celine to do this with English not as her first language was an incredible achievement.
However, never one to rest on her laurels, Celine knew the next generation of talent was nipping at her heels.
I'm not 18 years old anymore. I'm not 22 years old anymore. Eventually, there'll be another 12-year-old kid who will come in the business and take over. And that's the way it is.
So, once more, she was on the lookout for a song that would keep her at the top of her game.
I heard that Celine was looking for material. I knew that Celine could sing I Drove All Night amazingly. There was no question in my mind.
For her, it was a way to just remind people, like, every lane is my lane, even the club lane.
This is the story of the 3 songs that established Celine Dion as one of the most revered singers of her generation. Worldwide hits Because You Loved Me and It's All Coming Back to Me Now had put Celine among the most powerful singers on the planet. The following year brought another movie theme that firmly cemented Celine's place in the pantheon of all-time pop divas.
To put her, you know, in the mix with Titanic was just a genius move. And I don't think there's a person on earth that doesn't remember My Heart Will Go On and her performances of that.
The song reached #1 in more than 20 countries, establishing Celine as one of the top-selling artists in the world by the end of the 20th century.
With My Heart Will Go On, Celine had kind of surpassed her idols in some ways. It's the second biggest selling song by a female artist ever.
But while Celine felt professionally satisfied, one crucial part of her life was filled with longing.
In the late 90s, Celine and Renee really wanted to start a family.
Celine came from a huge family, and so it was always her expectation that she was going to have children herself.
But they were having difficulty conceiving.
We have decided that we wanted a baby for a long time already. But you see, nature, and it's not like, okay, you're gonna press a button, I want a baby now. It doesn't work like this. Sometimes, unfortunately, we've been working on that for a little while now. But whatever I have to, and it's going very well.
Celine put her career on the back burner for 3 years in order to really focus on getting pregnant, and all of that was worth it because Renee Charles was born in 2001.
Celine spent the next 2 years concentrating on her family. But then, in 2003, it was time for her to take on the charts once again.
Celine was at a tricky point in her career. She was 35, which in a very sexist industry is the point where female pop artists might find that radio stations aren't playlisting them automatically anymore. Things get a little harder. The music industry had also changed at this point.
Celine was no longer facing competition from the divas of the 90s, but instead the young and brash pop stars of the noughties, like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears.
I'm not 18 years old anymore. I'm not 22 years old anymore. Eventually, there'll be another 12-year-old kid who will come in the business and take over. And that's the way it is.
If she'd have recorded songs that sounded like Britney songs, it would have seemed a bit sad and desperate. She had to do something that was fresh, but felt age-appropriate.
Celine once again picked well. Written by songwriters Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly, I Drove All Night was already an established classic.
My two most famous songs are probably True Colors and Like a Virgin. But I consider I Drove All Night to be one of my favorites. When Tom and I wrote I Drove All Night, it was the mid-1980s. What inspired the song was going back and forth between the desert and the city. I was living in the Palm Springs area, and my girlfriend at the time lived in Los Angeles. So there was a lot of commuting back and forth. I just started writing. I had to escape. The city was sticky and cruel.
I had to escape. The city was sticky and cruel.
Billy and Tom recorded a demo with 60s legend Roy Orbison.
Called you first, but I was dying to get to you.
That's the demo that Tom and I did with Roy at our recording studio in Tom Kelly's living room. It's great to hear that. It takes me back to being in the room with the great hero, Roy Orbison.
Roy didn't have a record deal at the time, so Billy and Tom had to take it elsewhere and offered the song to Cyndi Lauper.
She loved it and decided to record it, and it became a top 10 single for her. So even though Roy recorded the song before Cyndi, Cindy's record was the first release of the song. And then sadly, Roy passed away.
Roy Orbison's demo of I Drove All Night was taken up by Virgin Records to create a posthumous single. Released in 1992, it was an international hit.
I only wish that Roy had been alive and we could have celebrated together.
10 years later, Billy was inspired to conceive one more brilliant take on his song.
I heard that Celine was looking for material. I knew that Celine could sing I Drove All Night amazingly. There was no question in my mind.
Celine jumped at the opportunity to take on this classic track.
She'd been off music for a little bit. She was a mom. She saw this song as her way of getting excited about music again.
In some ways, I think of it as being our lucky song, because it's rare that a songwriter has one song recorded by 3 artists of that stature.
Celine wanted her version to connect to a modern audience. So for a contemporary sound, she turned to Northern Europe.
A lot of the really big pop hits of the late 90s and early noughties were written by Swedish songwriters like Max Martin, who were creating these kind of instant classic pop anthems.
As a result, music studios across Stockholm had hits with artists like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears.
I've always loved Celine's adventurous spirit because she's not afraid to try on what's going on in music.
Pierre Astrom was the producer Celine and Renee chose.
I was very excited. I mean, it's an epic song, and to get to play it with Celine, of course, what are you gonna say? It was a little bit of a dream come true, but also quite frightened because I had no idea what to do with the song. Dance beat, but keep the guitars. That was the direction, which can be tricky. And they wanted a fresh sound. I couldn't get it in my head how to make it because I didn't hear it from the beginning.
The 2 previous versions added an element of complication.
Cyndi has this, well, you know, it's a little more quirky and a completely different vibe and a completely different attitude. That fits Cyndi perfectly, but I wanted to take it more in a romantic way.
Pierre and Celine opted for a romantic vocal against the driving beat.
I was hoping for her to bring her just amazing vocals, to get that soaring, emotional vibe out of her. But I wanted the modern dance beat under it so she could be on top of it. And she delivered 100%. Celine had a pretty bad cold when we recorded the song. Nobody will ever be able to tell, but she was struggling pretty hard. But it just shows again what kind of a singer and artist she is. She performed the song flawlessly. Oh, listen how she drags this out. So good. She did that on her own. So those notes were the struggling part of the song because she was so ill during the recording. But she refused to give up until we got it. And people around were just saying, oh, we need to take it easy with her now. And she just refused. She kept pounding until we got it. I mean, there's no way of telling she's got a pretty bad cold here. That's how this woman delivers.
I think he did a phenomenal job. I love the electric guitar in it.
Is that all right?
I think the dance approach to it is effective without sounding like cheap disco or something. I think really captured the song beautifully.
Getting Billy's blessing that he loved the work, it means everything.
Celine sang it amazingly. I would be hard-pressed to say what's my favorite version of that song because I like each one of them for different reasons.
For her, it was a way to just remind people, like, every lane is my lane, even the club lane.
And the video complemented the song perfectly.
She looks so great in this video.
She's got her cat suit on. She means business. She's large and in charge. I really like it.
And it's black and white, too. I didn't even think of it, but it is. A little nod to Roy.
This was the ultimate comeback song for Celine because she was doing something a little hipper here, and she's totally owning it.
I Drove All Night reached the #1 spot in several countries and is one of Celine's favourite crowd pleasers.
She opens her concerts with that song, and she'll say, Paris, is that all right? Or she'll say, Tokyo, is that all right?
Is that all right?
It kind of thrills me that she grabbed onto that line to say hello to her loving audience.
And that loving audience continues to flock to wherever Celine performs to celebrate a remarkable career and a catalogue steered by inspired choices in song.
The odds were against Celine. She didn't have the easiest start in life. She wasn't conventionally pretty. She wasn't an obvious star. But what she did have was undeniable talent.
It's just an incredible voice.
It's one thing to be able to have that gift, this natural instrument. It's another to be able to use it as effectively as she has and can. And she is so skilled.
She has an amazing range, but beyond that, she has this uncanny ability to put so much emotion into a song. And I think that's what people really love about her vocals.
I feel like Celine is out there experiencing and discovering new emotions, and her music will take us to a place where we will discover the new emotions.
Celine's forever, She'll be around forever as long as she wants to be. She's timeless.
The emotion, the passion, and the range, you can't beat it. She's got it all. There's only so many singers like that in a lifetime.